Sonic Pocket Adventure for the Neo Geo Pocket Color is the missing link between classic Sonic and modern Sonic. What do I mean by that? I mean between the era of the Sega Genesis and Sonic being pudgy and having beady black eyes, and Sonic being hip and cool and having noodly arms and green eyes. And what's with this? A Neo Geo Pocket Color? This was made by SNK. And yes, there are countless Sonic games for Sega's Game Gear, but this game came during a weird time in Sega's history. They were particularly fond of the Neo Geo Pocket Color. In fact, there was a link cable so you could hook this up to a Dreamcast, much in the same way that you could with a Game Boy Advance and a GameCube. So, released in 1999, this is Sonic Pocket Adventure for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. And today, for our Sonic Marathon, that's what we're going to be looking at. Welcome to Stuff We Play, home of everything weird and retro. If that sounds cool to you, why not subscribe? And the Neo Geo Pocket Color. What a weird and retro thing this is. One of the few systems where I'd say emulation really can't do it justice, and that's because it has this really nice clicky joystick thing. It's more like an arcade joystick than an analog stick, but it's so satisfying to use. However, I will disclose, I had to use an emulator for the sake of this review. Sonic Pocket Adventure has never been released on any other console besides the Neo Geo Pocket Color. This game is also pretty important in Sonic history as well. The team who worked on this game would later go on to form Dimps, who is famous for the Sonic Advance and Sonic Rush games and most of the portable Sonic games. Sonic Pocket Adventure upon release was met actually pretty well by critics. In fact, IGN famously gave it a 10 out of 10. Story-wise, it's once again just a tale of Eggman being evil and turning animals into robots, and you having to go as Sonic to stop him. Just Sonic. There's no Tails or Knuckles playable here, though Tails does appear flying the tornado at several points, and Knuckles is a boss fight. These levels are essentially ripped directly from Sonic 2, except instead of Emerald Hill Zone, we have Neo South Island Zone, or instead of Chemical Plant, we have Secret Plant. And it goes like that for most of them, except for Sky Chase. Sky Chase is still just Sky Chase. Instead of having music from Sonic 2, the music here is from Sonic 3. What's interesting here though is the very first stage of the game, Neo South Island Zone Act 1, has music that's a remake of the Sonic World theme from Sonic Jam from Sega Saturn. The gameplay here is pretty simple. Sonic can spin dash and run and jump on enemies just like he could in most games. And that's it, and that's all he needs to do. And it feels great, especially if you're playing on real hardware and using that beautiful clicky joystick. The control here is definitely right up there with the Genesis games. And if you have any experience with those games, then you'll be going and zipping through loops and whatnot in no time. What's also pretty nice here is the Chaos Emerald system. It's very simple to get to the special stages. It's once again just collect 50 rings and jump into the giant ring at the end of the stage. The special stages then are just remakes of the Sonic 2 special stages. I actually quite like them. I think they control pretty well, though you definitely need to memorize them since rings and bombs seem to appear much quicker than the Genesis version. I don't know if it's a draw distance issue or what. Now, much like in the Game Gear Sonic games and Sonic 1, there are only 6 special stages. There is a 7th Chaos Emerald, and partway through the game you will fight Knuckles, who I guess Eggman swayed to fight for him again, who will drop the emerald upon being defeated. However, afterwards Eggman will swoop in and steal the 7th emerald. Instead of going through a special stage for the final emerald, you actually obtain it during the final boss fight. Eggman's contraption is being powered by the emerald, and you have to knock it out of the machine. If you don't knock it out of the machine, even if you have the other 6 emeralds, you still get the bad ending, where the world explodes. However, if you do knock it out of Eggman's machine and grab it, then you'll get to go to the true final boss, which is like a demade version of Doomsday Zone. It feels great, though for some reason it has the music from Sky Sanctuary Zone and Sonic 3 playing. That just does not fit there. Now, you know how I said that this was the missing link between classic Sonic and modern Sonic? If you've been watching the gameplay, you've probably noticed that. Sonic, despite being pudgier like in his classic form, does have green eyes, and once you beat the game and he does that really awkward looking final pose, you realize that yes, this is modern Sonic we're playing as. Eggman / Robotnik, on the other hand, tends to have his classic sprite while in most of his contraptions. However, he will be changed into his modern military jacket in many of the cutscenes. It plays like a Sonic game, it looks like a Sonic game. Oh look, Silver Sonic from Sonic 2's here, and he's an absolute joke. And I think that's it, right? I'm not forgetting anything, right? Oh, you want to ask about those little yellow things. That's the puzzle room. You can actually collect all these puzzle pieces throughout the game to assemble these images. It's nothing more than bragging rights, but they look cool, and I think it's a nice way to encourage replayability, especially since it's on the Neo Geo Pocket Color. This game has a battery backup. Now I should mention, one thing I am having to gloss over here is the multiplayer mode. If you had a friend who had one, a link cable, you could do races and whatnot like you could in Sonic 2. Unfortunately, none of my friends are cool enough to own one of these systems, so I was only able to show the single player adventure. Overall though, this is a great game. I dig Sonic Pocket Adventure for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, and I would overall highly recommend it. So there we go, that's Sonic Pocket Adventure for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. A true hidden gem. If you want to learn more about the Neo Geo Pocket Color, why not check out my Neo Geo Pocket Color buying guide? If it's not up yet, it should be up within a day or two after this review. After all, I am doing a video every single day during June of 2018. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Whoa. Ooh, what's this? Sonic the Hedgehog for Game Gear. You know, this was on Master System as well, and well, before I go on a ramble about that, why don't I dedicate an entire video to this? So, for the rest of June, every Sunday and Thursday, we're going to be covering the Master System / Game Gear Sonic games. So with that, stay tuned for my next Sonic review, where we're looking at Sonic the Hedgehog for Game Gear and Master System. So with that, thank you very much for watching, stay classy, and I'll see you next time.